Chidi didn't raise his voice. He didn't say it with anger. He just said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. You've been good to me, Nkem, but I don't think you're my type anymore. Nkem stood by the kitchen sink, holding a plate halfway washed. Water dripped slowly from her hands. She turned, confused. What did you say? I've changed, Chidi replied, picking up his car keys. And I need someone who fits where I'm going. He left, just like that. How it all started. They met 3 years ago at a bus stop during rainy season. Chidi looked helpless, standing in the rain, his shirt wet and stuck to his body. His wallet had been stolen. He looked lost, embarrassed, and desperate. Nkem didn't know him, but she handed him 500 naira and said, "Go home. Stay safe." The next day, she saw him again. Same stop. He smiled shyly and gave her the money back. That's how they started talking. Just talking. Every morning after that, they met at the same stop, talking about dreams, job interviews, life. She learned he had a degree, but no job. He learned she was working part-time at a local chemist and taking care of her sick mom. Weeks passed. They became friends. Then more. Nkem was there when Chidi got his first interview. She helped him pick the best shirt, ironed it, prayed for him. She even waited outside that office building, pacing back and forth with worry. He didn't get that job, but he got another one months later. He cried on her shoulder that day. Now standing in her small kitchen, she realized the Chidi she loved was gone. He left her behind with the version of himself that still knew what loyalty looked like. Nkem didn't hear from Chidi for 2 whole weeks after he walked out. No calls, no texts, not even a "how are you?" At first, she told herself he needed space. Maybe he was overwhelmed. Maybe he'd come to his senses. But when she opened Instagram one evening, her heart sank. There he was, Chidi, in a sky blue kaftan, smiling beside a girl she had never seen before, light-skinned, wearing expensive makeup, red lipstick, long nails, standing like she owned the world. The caption read, "Building with someone who matches my energy." The photos kept coming. Chidi in a hotel hallway, Chidi holding wine glasses, Chidi beside a Mercedes that clearly wasn't his, Chidi with Chelsea. It was like he had replaced her completely and proudly. Nkem stared at the phone screen for a long time. Her hands started to shake. Her chest got tight. This was the same man who once sat on her floor, crying when he didn't get a job. The same man who used to say, "I don't know how I'd survive without you." Now he was surviving fine, without her. That weekend, Nkem went to the market and passed by the roadside suya man they both used to buy suya from. The man smiled and asked, "Where's Olga? Haven't seen both of you lately." She smiled weakly and said, "Olga has moved up." She didn't say more. When she got home, she served her mother and quietly took her food into the room. She stared at the rice until it got cold. Then she cried. Not loudly, just quietly, in little broken pieces. Meanwhile, Chidi was learning how to live in Chelsea's world. It was different. She never laughed at his old jokes. She made fun of his pronunciations. She didn't care about his stories of struggle, said they were too depressing. She brought him around her rich friends, but never introduced him properly. She started correcting his English in front of others. And one night, at a fancy birthday dinner, he tried to kiss her cheek. She gently moved her face and whispered, "Let's not embarrass ourselves, please." That night, as he lay in her guest room alone, Chidi stared at the ceiling and remembered the girl who once gave him 500 naira in the rain without asking for anything in return. Chidi was no longer smiling in pictures. The posts had stopped. The flashy outings had slowed. Chelsea was busy all the time now, traveling, attending events alone, spending more time with her inner circle than with him. They were together. She was on her phone. She barely listened. And when she laughed, it wasn't at his jokes. It was at memes he didn't understand. One night he cooked her noodles with boiled egg, something he and Nkem used to eat during tough days. He served it, hoping she'd smile. She blinked at the plate and said, "You made this? Don't you know I'm keto?" That night, he ate alone. The next morning, Chidi scrolled through his phone and opened an old album he'd forgotten. Me and Nkem, also days. Photos filled his screen. Nkem, laughing in his oversized hoodie. Nkem, holding his CV while they stood in front of a cyber cafe. Nkem, asleep beside him on the bus, head resting on his shoulder. He swallowed hard. She had been there, through all of it. Not once did she call him a burden. Not once did she look at another man. Back in Nkem's world, Nkem was quiet, but not broken. She had started praying again, started smiling more at her mom, started saying yes to small things like drinks with her cousin, buying herself a new scarf, even baking cake on a Sunday just because. The pain hadn't left, but it no longer sat on her chest like a bag of rice. One day, while she was dusting her TV stand, her phone rang. Chidi. Her hand hovered over the screen. She let it ring. Then quietly, she blocked the number. Not out of bitterness, not to prove a point, just because she was finally done. One Saturday, Chidi stood outside her gate for nearly 10 minutes. He had called. No answer. He had texted. No reply. Now he was standing under the sun, sweating slightly, holding a nylon bag of meat pie and juice, the same kind Nkem once bought him when he had malaria. He knocked again. "Nkem, it's me." No sound. He finally heard footsteps. The small gate opened just a bit. Not enough to enter. Nkem stood behind it, holding it halfway. She looked different. Her face was calm. Her skin looked fresh. She had a new scarf on, tied neatly. Her eyes held no hate, but they also held nothing else. "Why are you here, Chidi?" she asked softly. He took a shaky breath. "To talk. To say I'm sorry. To explain." "Explain what?" she asked. Chidi hesitated. "Things with Chelsea didn't work out. I've been thinking a lot about everything." Nkem blinked slowly. "So, you remember me now that you're lonely?" "No, I mean I remember you because you were real, because you were good to me." She nodded once. "Yes, I was." He smiled weakly. "Can we sit down and talk?" Nkem looked down for a moment, then looked back at him and said gently, "Chidi, the version of me who would have let you in, doesn't live here anymore." She didn't slam the gate. She just closed it, slowly, quietly, and went inside. Chidi stood there, still holding the nylon bag. The pie was still warm, but the moment was cold. It had been 10 months since Nkem last saw Chidi. She no longer kept track. No more checking his status. No more waiting for his name to flash on her screen. The pain that once kept her awake had faded like the sound of a song she no longer played. Nkem was becoming herself again. Life began to smile back, gently. Her small baking hustle had grown. She was now the cake lady in her area. People called her for birthdays, baby showers, office surprises. Her cousin helped her set up a clean Instagram page at NKEMBAKES. And that's where David saw her. He had ordered cupcakes for his niece's birthday. When Nkem showed up with a quiet grace and sweet smile, David noticed more than the cupcakes. She noticed him too. Tall, kind eyes, soft spoken. But she was careful, too careful. David kept ordering cakes, even when there were no birthdays. He showed up at her store with fresh juice or lunch. He asked about a day. He never pushed. He just stayed. One evening, after he helped her carry baking trays to the car, her mother called her aside. "That man," she said, "he looks at you like you're a diamond." Real love is quiet, not loud, but it never hides. Nkem's eyes softened. And for the first time, she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, this love was safe. One sunny afternoon, David came with his calm voice and nervous smile. He knelt on one knee and said, "You are the most beautiful part of your own story. I would be honored to build the rest of it with you." Tears filled in Nkem's eyes. But this time, they weren't from pain. They were from peace. She said yes. They picked a simple wedding date. Nothing too loud. Just family, friends, and joy. Somewhere across town, Chidi scrolled past her pre-wedding photos. He paused. Nkem in a soft pink dress. David holding her hand gently. Their eyes locked like nothing else existed. Chidi stared at the screen and quietly felt the full weight of what he lost. A great woman who loved him genuinely and was willing to stand by him through thick and thin just slipped off his hands because he was busy chasing the flashy woman out there who cared less about him. Chidi wept gently and tears ran down his cheek. Moral of the story: if loyalty isn't enough, loss will teach you what is. Never leave the one who stayed, or you may watch someone else give her everything you couldn't see in her. If Nkem's journey inspired you, hit like, subscribe, and share. For every heart that was once broken, healing is real. And so is new love. The end.